Good morning, my dears. Okay, so this is my morning. Look, you rule. How cute is that? And I've got a cool shirt on. It says well-behaved women seldom make history. So super duper cool shirt. Got it at the Civil Rights Museum. But this is how I spend my mornings now. I drink my coffee. I hang out in my backyard with, of course, no other than Lucy. She's super cute. But just saying good morning before we start class today. So let me drink my coffee. All right, here we go. Got my jammies on. One of the luxuries of teaching you from the comforts of my home. And I've got my blanket here. This blanket was actually made by my mom. She's very creative, very awesome. It's one of my favorite blankets on this planet. A&M represent, right? A&M. So today I wanted to start with a quote from Mr. Rogers. Now, before the time of Miss Rodriguez and YouTube, there was a man named Mr. Rogers, and he had a television show that was broadcasted for children and families at home that he would use to teach different kinds of lessons. And these lessons were mainly centered around like being a good person, compassion, empathy, how do we be a good neighbor was like his little thing. And he would say a lot of really cool things that I think has struck a lot of people. But one of the things that he said that I think is relevant to today, and anytime something happens and it's a huge catastrophe, it's a tragedy or something, and you may be thinking like, why is the world so bad? Like, why is everyone bad? Is the entire world bad? But he says something that I think is something to keep in mind anytime things like this happen. So he said, when I was a boy and I would see scary things in the news, my mother would say to me, look for the helpers. You will always find people who are helping. So, I feel like that's relevant. There's a lot of things going on right now, but I ask and encourage all of you to look at the people who are actually helping. Look at the people who are putting themselves out there and trying their very best just to be kind in these times that maybe aren't the kindest. And if you can't find anybody who is helping and you can't see anybody who is doing the right thing, then you have an opportunity to be that person, to be that helper, to go out and be kind. Look in your neighborhoods. Is there an elderly couple who maybe can't go to the store or can't mow their lawns right now? And you guys being young and able, go out there and go help them. It's an amazing opportunity that you have to help during this time. So I wanted to start off with that because another big thing that I can kind of think of that we've talked about where this would be relevant is we talked about way back in September. I know that's also been a while, but we talked about 9/11, and I gave a lesson about 9/11, and if you forgot what 9/11 was, because I know a lot of you guys weren't alive during that time, 9/11 is when the United States was attacked by 4 different planes. 3 planes actually met contact with buildings and civilians, and the other plane was crashed into the ground with the passengers inside. They hijacked the plane back. They crashed into a field somewhere, and they were able to stop that plane from where it was going, and some people believe it was going towards the White House. So the 3 planes that did hit, there's 2 planes that hit the Twin Towers in New York, and then you had another plane that hit the Pentagon. And out of this, millions of people, or not millions, that's dramatic. Thousands of people did die, but millions of people were affected, right? The entire nation kind of felt, whether you were not in New York or not in DC, the entire nation felt that kind of fear that came from it. They felt the terror and things like that. And so something that we kind of talked about was, when were you during 9/11? And we watched some videos of people who were remembering what it was like to be experiencing 9/11. And I know you heard my story, and yes, I was only 6 years old and I was only in the 1st grade, but it's one of the first memories that I can remember. And so I kind of told you about my story, and I remembered, you know, coming home and my parents were on the couch just watching the news on repeat, and we all just kind of sat together on the couch and watched and cried and held each other close. And so that was something cool to, I mean, I don't want to say it was cool, but it was something to like remember and go back and think about. Historically, we experienced that. So with that being said, you guys, I want you to do something kind of similar, in the sense that I want you to get an idea of where everyone's head's at right now, right? This is going to be history, whether we know it or not. It's going to make like a trivia question some time later in the future, right? This is history in the making. Has not happened very often, and it's definitely not been this big of a deal. And by this, I mean COVID-19. I mean coronavirus, right? This stuff is going to make our history books in a couple of years, I feel. So something about history, and I know you're thinking, Miss, this is English. No, English is a part of history. History is a part of English. Everything is intertwined, right? We know this. So we know that in history there's primary sources, and then there's secondary sources, right? I hope that your history teacher has covered this. If not, I'll give you a quick little synopsis of both. So primary sources normally come from the person themselves, right? The person is telling you firsthand what their experience was, what they have seen. The primary source can look like a diary entry, right? Lewis and Clark, if you know who those two people are, they scavenged the land in the United States when they came here, and they kept a diary, and that was a primary source that gave a lot of historians information about the time that they were in and what they were experiencing, what was going on. So that's a primary resource. And then you have secondary resources. Secondary resources are more, they're exactly what they sound like. They're secondhand perspectives of people's experiences. So this can look a lot like biographies. Biographies are when people write about other people's experiences in their lifetime. So a lot of biographies are written. I'm reading one right now called Parting Waters. It was recommended to me. And it's about a biography of sorts about Martin Luther King Jr. So, secondary source, it's all valid information, but you have an opportunity to do a primary source. So, how are we going to do this? Well, simple. You are going to come up with questions that you are going to use to interview somebody in your home that you're being quarantined with. If you have no one in your home that's interested in being interviewed, use a cell phone and call somebody, right? So I do have people in my household who I could interview. My fiance for one, but I'm gonna interview him tomorrow, so I didn't want to like double dip. And then I have, of course, my dog that I could interview, but she doesn't talk, so that doesn't work. I'm just gonna pan over so you can see what she's doing right now, because she looks like a doofus. Here we go. Yep. Say hi to the camera, honey. You want to answer some questions? Yeah. That's basically what she does all day. So, instead, I'm going to phone interview my sister. And she's going to answer some questions that I came up with. And I'm going to share those questions with you right now so you can kind of see what those questions could look like. You can just use my questions if you want to, that is fine. But either way, find a piece of paper or just pull up the notes page in your phone. And I'm going to ask her 7 questions, okay? One question is, what is your name? Second question, how old are you? Okay. Third question, what are some things you've been doing during this quarantine? 4, how have you been able to cope or deal with the changes happening worldwide? 5, can you remember a time when something like this has ever happened before? 6, could you compare this to anything we've experienced as a nation? And 7, what is one thing you remember most out of this entire experience so far? So, I'm gonna call her. I'm gonna have to wait because she's also working from home, so I'm gonna have to wait until she's available. But in the meantime, I think I'm going to probably come up with tomorrow's lesson. So that'll be fun. So check back in just a second when we call her up and ask her these questions, okay? All right, talk to y'all soon. Welcome back. I have my sister on FaceTime. Let's turn it around here. Say hi.
Hi.
Okay, so she's gladly put herself out there and she's going to be my interviewee for my interview questions. So we're going to start off with, what is your name?
Hi, I'm Brianna Rodriguez Karami.
It's a long name. How old are you, Brianna Rodriguez Karami?
I am 24 plus 5.
For those of you who are bad at math, that is 29. Okay. Oh. Okay. Third question. What are some things you've been doing during this quarantine? Tell us.
Yeah, so I've been working. I usually drive into my office, which is 45 minutes away. And so I haven't been having to do that, but I have been working from home alongside my coworker, aka my husband, and my 2 cats.
2 cats. So I have a problem with dogs. She has a problem with cats. It's fine. All right, cool. Have you been eating a lot of snacks?
All of my snacks are gone, so we have moved on to the fresh fruits and vegetables, which are going to stay there forever.
Okay. Okay, question number 4. How have you been able to cope or deal with the changes happening worldwide?
Yeah, I think I just try to stay updated daily. I think there's constant change with this pandemic, and as information becomes available, so I just try to stay informed. And I mean, besides that, nothing much has changed besides my work environment. So just staying with everything I've been doing on a daily basis and continuing our new normal.
Yeah. Question 5. Can you remember a time when something like this has ever happened before, especially to you?
Well, back in the day when I was in high school, there was something called the swine of '09. So that was the H1N1 bird flu. And although I wasn't personally affected by that, and it wasn't to this effect. My prom was actually delayed because of the swine or H1N1. I don't know if they're actually different.
One of those, though, right?
My prom went from being canceled to postponed. We actually had it on a Thursday, which was really weird. But I know that everyone was freaking out whenever that happened. We didn't experience school closures or mandatory quarantine, but it was pretty scary because that was the first time I can remember of experiencing something like that.
Yeah. So just to reiterate, her prom was postponed, originally canceled and postponed because of a similar situation and outbreak, if you will. I believe it was swine flu. I think they are different. I'm not sure. We are not scientists here. But it was obviously not that serious because, we don't really remember which one it was. So it's definitely a little bit of a different thing than what we're experiencing right now. But her prom was postponed, so it's definitely something we've kind of experienced before, so that's good to know. 6, question number 6, which is also going to be question number 7, because 2 questions sounded the same. What is one thing that you'll remember most out of this entire experience so far?
Yeah, I feel like this is kind of a deep question because never have I experienced any kind of shortage, especially when it pertains to toilet paper or sanitation products. And I think that that's the most warlike thing that we've ever experienced. And so I think that's something that will stick with me for a long time, because you can't even Amazon that stuff, which has never ever happened, and I hope never happens again. But I think it just goes to show how scary that it really is, and how we really don't even know what this looks like quite yet. And so just that constant evolution of information and fear will hopefully never happen again, but it will definitely stick with me. But also just like this like weird time continuum that we're in, like we're doing all of the same things for the most part, but at a slower pace. And I thoroughly enjoy it. I love working from home and not commuting 2 hours a day to work. And so just being able to take the time to do things that you normally wouldn't do and appreciate that extra time.
Yeah, that's a good answer.
Thank you. I'm also a beauty pageant contender, as you can tell from my FaceTime. Just kidding.
Let's just get another look-see there. Okay, so it's that simple. I'm gonna go ahead and log off for my sister so I can close this video out. So bye. Thank you so much for the interview. Everyone say bye.
Bye.
Alrighty. So that was my oldest sister. I'm the youngest of three. And it's that simple, right? I just asked her some questions, talked with her. If you are doing this with a family member or a friend, feel free to dive into a whole entire conversation about it, right? This is historic. This is something that's probably going to go down in the books. So getting people's perspectives is definitely going to be of value later on in life. I feel, I don't know, maybe I'm overthinking it, but probably not because I'm a genius. Also, if you don't want to interview someone or maybe they don't want to be interviewed, ask them if they'll just read your questions to you. So it'll be like a reverse interview, right? Like you come up with the questions, you give them the questions, and then you can just answer them to that person. Again, the whole point of this is just to really document and think about our experiences thus far, because this is a momentous time and we want to remember these things, right? So I hope you enjoyed today's video, kind of put in a little bit more stuff. Tomorrow's video is going to be a little bit about how to remain mentally healthy during this time. I'm going to bring in my fiance, as you know, is a school psychologist worker in the district that we are in. So I'm going to pull him on the couch. He's going to get to talk to you guys. I'm going to ask him some questions, also kind of do a little interview with him. And maybe we'll demonstrate some of those mental health practices that you guys can practice at home. So I love you all. I miss you all. It's been so fun seeing you guys comment and subscribe. So again, like, comment, subscribe, all those good things. And I will see y'all tomorrow. Mwah.